Hey y'all. I came on here to do a little story time. It is like 3 o'clock in the morning. I have insomnia again for probably, I think this is the third night in a row. And I was browsing on TikTok looking for books, and I seen this post by this black girl named, her name is Life in the Ash Lane. I think that's what her name was. She just showed up in my For You. And she was doing a post. She had a hashtag 17 diapers. I think it was 17 diapers. And she was talking about how the women was telling me that they did not really have a lot of black girls. So I decided I ain't doing nothing. Why not tell my story? Okay, story time. And I don't know if this was at the time. Okay, when I got older, I realized some of the moments that I had when the postpartum moments that I had. I didn't know at the time that they were postpartum. I got pregnant. I got pregnant back in 2001. I got pregnant back in 2001. So that was my first baby. I also got pregnant again in 2002. That was my second baby. I got pregnant in 2003. I ended up having a miscarriage. Then I turned around again and got pregnant at the end of 2003. Yeah. So I have been pregnant a total of 6 times before the age of 30. Me and my husband used to get in. Anyway, the time my husband had just got in the military, and it was like we had kids. We was like 20, got married, and he was a basic, and we moved to Hawaii. I had no friends in Hawaii, and I ended up living on the street where my husband, he was like an E2 or E3. He had just got in, and I ended up kind of like on the street with wives that were bullies. And because I remember when we first moved in, I did not understand military life, so they were like very mean and passive aggressive. Because one of them said, when they asked my husband ranks, and I didn't understand, but I remember the girl next door said, "Oh, that's weird." When she asked my husband rank, she said, "That's weird because they usually don't move lower enlisted over here." And that's what she had told me. At the time, I didn't even know what lower enlisted mean. I'm gonna be honest, I was very naive and ignorant. I had never even been around white people like that other than my teachers. So like a lot of stuff they used to say, it used to go over my head. But I knew I wasn't naive enough to know that they weren't trying to send me, because they were. But because I'm only like 20, and all these women that got me between 5 to 10 to 15 years, I kind of like just kind of backed off. And so my husband had been there for like probably like 3 months. We had been up like 3 or 4 months. And I had found out I was pregnant. At the time, I didn't even know that I was pregnant. When I found out I was pregnant, when I realized I was pregnant, I was almost 6 months pregnant. And so one day, me and my husband was just chilling, and he said, they called him in, and they was like, "Hey, we need you to come in." And he came back home, and he said, "Hey, I need you to go down here with me." No, he just said, "Hey, I got to go back up there." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I deployed." I said, "When?" He said, "Friday." It was Monday. And I was like, I had just found out I was about to be like probably, by this time, I think I was almost 7 months pregnant or 7 months pregnant. And I was like, whoa. Now, take we just got there. It hadn't even been a year. I hadn't really made friends other than the women that's my neighbor. And they were very mean. They were very rude to me. And so I was just like, okay. So, to be honest, up until I got my husband, my life was shit. So I was just taking it with a grain of salt. I knew I was scared, but I was just like, in my mind, I was like, it was too good to be true. Like, like, it's like we only had a break for like a couple of months where we didn't have no worries, because he was in the Army, he had a job, when nothing getting cut off. So I was just like, in my mind, because I have always gotten bad news, I was just like, I took it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. And so I remember, he left. He actually left that Thursday, not that Friday. He had got deployed. And here I am with 2 babies. And my baby's not even 5. I had 2 babies, like step babies, and I'm pregnant, and I'm by myself. Oh, and we had a dog, a pit bull. And so I'm trying to live life. I'm trying to make it. I don't know where I'm at. I'm on an island. I don't have any family. And my mother-in-law, she did say that she was gonna come when I had the baby. So that kind of relieved me, but it really didn't, because at the time, me and my mother-in-law really didn't have a good relationship. So I ended up just, living life. But I didn't have friends. I didn't really go nowhere. I had one friend, but she was a soldier. So it's kind of, long story short, I'm always saying long story short, and the story's long. Anyway, I started one day crying because the neighbors was bullying me. Every day they kept complaining, so I kept getting all kind of complaints from housing. It got so bad to where I thought that I was going to get kicked out because I didn't know what to do. It was like, and then the friend that I had, it got to one point, the friend that I had, she lived in the barracks. That's what the single soldiers say. And they had complained on me. The women there had complained on me so much to where I got my babies and I went to her barracks, and I was sleeping in her barracks because I was scared to be home because I knew that they were complaining on me. They complained on me about the grass. They complained on me about the noise. They complained about I was just sad all the time and I cried all the time. And like the first couple of times my husband called, because his first deployment I didn't get back then. You didn't get to talk to your husband. You may got 2 or 3 calls a month, and if they was on a mission, you probably won't get a call for about a couple of weeks. But I got emails, so I didn't talk to him that much. So when he would call, I was scared to say anything to him because I didn't want to like stress him out to where his mind be cloudy when he, would go on a convoy or something. So I never would say anything. So I was just quiet. But I would cry. Like I cry every day. And so when it was time for me to have my baby, and that's a whole nother story, but we're not going to talk about that. It's going to be like I'm probably going to turn this into like a series. So no, when I got 9 months, I could not walk up my stairs. I ended up starting to sleep on the couch. It was also easy for me because I could let the dog out and not have to go up and down the stairs. I had diabetes, pregnancy diabetes. I had preeclampsia. I had something else. Oh, and I had protein in my urine. And there was some other stuff. But like if I moved too fast, I would faint. Now take to mind, my husband had his friends, but like I said, I didn't really call anybody because I didn't want to. Back then, if something happens, even though your husband did not call you, he would know. Like his friends or their soldiers. Like one time I got in a fight and I was at the police station. My husband called the police station while he was deployed. So like if something went down, my husband would know. So I didn't tell any of his friends, and I kind of like barricaded myself in the house because I just didn't want nobody to know that nobody to tell my husband that I was depressed. So I remember going into labor. I remember going into labor on the couch with my babies on me. And I actually didn't go into labor. I thought my water had broke. But actually the placenta had tore away from the sac. But we're not going to talk about that part. We're not going to talk about that part because that's more like they treat black women like shit part. Because really that whole ordeal was traumatic for me. That was my second time having a traumatic experience as a black woman giving birth. But I'm going to talk about that later. I just want to get to the part to where I I didn't realize that later I was going through having a postpartum moment. So let's fast forward to me. I had just had my baby, and the whole time, okay, I'm going to be honest, okay, and I got ADHD, so I be all over the place. I'm going to be honest. I've only said this out loud one time to my best friend, and it was a moment. I am a phenomenal mom. I love my children. I'm a little ghetto, but I love my children, and they're good children. I am going to be honest. I've been pregnant 6 times, right? I had 4 children. One of my children passed. But out of all the times I have been pregnant, I have never enjoyed it. I have never had a happy moment. I was miserable from the time I was pregnant to the time I had my baby. Like I don't have no happy moments at all whatsoever when it comes to being pregnant, from the very first pregnancy to the end. So I just want to put that out there. I have never mistreated my kids. I do not believe in corporal punishment. I do not hit my kids. I do yell at my children sometimes, but it's not traumatizing. But I just want to put out, I have never enjoyed pregnancy. If I could, after the first pregnancy, if I wanted more kids, if I could afford it, I would have gotten a surrogate. I don't like anything about being pregnant. I just want to put that out there. I never enjoyed it. All of my pregnancies are traumatizing. I just want to put that out first. So I want to fast forward to the part where I can remember my very first postpartum moment. I remember going to my son's 2-week checkup, and I remember the doctor was like, I had a white doctor, and he was so, I don't know, I don't know if it's because of my age, but he was looking and talking to me like I was incompetent. And I would say one thing about, to me, military doctors was so unwelcoming, okay? I'm used to being treated like shit while going to the doctor because I grew up poor, so I went to the health clinic. But like, when my husband got in the Army, I thought it was going to be different, but it wasn't. And I remember going to the doctor, and I remember him saying, hey, your son is losing weight. And the way he was talking to me, like, I didn't know what I was doing as a mother. And he was saying, your son is losing weight. What's going on? Do you not know how to take care of him properly? I was like, I have 2 babies. Yes. And he was like, your son is not getting the food that he needs. And I said, yeah. I said, something is wrong with my milk, I think. I don't get a lot. I said that my breasts are really, really swollen. And I said, it's like he's not eating, he's not getting enough. And I said, every time he suck on my breast, it's like only a little will come out of this breast. This breast is really, really swollen, and I don't know what to do. And I remember explaining it to him and crying. I said, I don't know what to do. I know he's hungry. And I said, all he does is cry. He cries when he's hungry. I was like, as long as he's fed, he's fine. I said, as long as I got my breast in his mouth, he's fine. I said, but when I take it out, he cries. I said, but I said, my breast hurts so bad to where I can't even touch him. And he asked me to take my shirt off so he can see it. And when he saw my breast, it was like, that's when he showed me compassion. He said, oh, and I can't remember what it was, but he explained to me what was wrong with me. He said, hey, this is really bad. I am going to send, he said, I'm sending you home, but I'm going to send you a lactose. But then he said, do you not know how to breastfeed? And I said, you put the breast, I didn't breastfeed before. Now, be honest, after the first, I always hated breastfeeding. So after like the first month, I would pump. And then after about 3 months, I went to formula. That's with all my baby. The first 3 months I pumped. I mean, the first month I gave them my breast. The second 2 months I would pump, and then around about 4 months I would give formula. So, but that baby, I wanted to. I didn't know that I could get WIC, and my husband was private, so it was expensive. I was like, I'm just breastfeeding. At the time, I didn't realize I can get WIC. So I just breastfed. So pretty much he was like, oh, he told me that I forgot what it was called, but I had blockage on my breasts. And so he did show compassion, but when he asked, oh, do you not know how to breastfeed? I was like, this nigga really talking to me like I'm stupid. So, and like I said, I'm used to it. I'm black. I was used to getting treated poorly. I just did not expect it on being in the military. So I went back home with the babies, and I wasn't home by the hour, and God behold, I got my lactose nurse, and she was at first I thought she was Hawaiian, but she was black. She was Samoan in black, because when she walked in the door, you can tell she was Samoan, but when she opened her mouth, I knew she was a sister. And she was like, what's going on, girl? What's going on? And I just started crying. And she said, what's going on? She said, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I just told her I could not stop crying. I was embarrassed. And she was like, kind of like the first actual interaction I had, because I had kind of barricaded myself in the house with the kids. And she just said, she said, okay, we're going to get you started. She asked to see my breast. And I remember her going to get some boiling hot water, right? And she put it in a bowl, like she put it in like a pan, like a pan. And she took cold water. No, she took like some ice, and she poured the ice in the water. And she said, let's give the food a few minutes to cool down. And she told me, she said, stick your breast in the water. And I stuck my breast in the water, and the relief that I had, holy crap. I felt like birds was chirping. It was like, and you could just see the milk like coming out of my breast. And she said, we're gonna give it a minute. And to be honest, it was actually like red and pink. So it was like blood in there too. And so after that, she told me, she said, I'm going to give your baby some formula. And she gave my baby some formula. And I said, well, he has never had formula. She said, it's okay. He is hungry. She said, well, we're going to go half and half. But she told me not to breastfeed until the next day. She told me to keep putting my breasts in the water until they're not sore to touch. And that's what I did. And I remember the next day when I put my son on my breast, I cried. I cried for every time he worked. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know if it was tears of joy or if it was tears of relief or what. I just could not stop crying. And I remember week 5, week 4. I called my doctor because I was like, hey, how long am I supposed to, because I was still on my cycle. And I was like, hey, how long am I supposed to be on my cycle? And it was heavy, like it was heavy. And they was like, oh, it's okay. Some people are heavy. Now, I was really, really heavy, I always had a heavy cycle. But for some reason, I did not remember being on my cycle that long after I had my first 2 babies. So I was like, okay. So when I called the doctor, he was like, oh, you're good. You're okay. It's normal. And so I was like, I got 2 more weeks. I'm going. And I knew I didn't want to get pregnant anymore. So I knew when I went to my 6-week checkup, I was going to get my new birth control. And I already had, researched the birth control that I wanted. And I remember going to the doctor. This time I had got a young doctor, and this to this day, after those two doctors that I had, I refuse to ever in my life have a man doctor again, not an OB. I refuse to ever in my life have a white OB doctor ever again. I remember going and he was like, you know, he was giving me my checkup. He was like, and I was telling him what happened. I remember him asking me, he said, well, have you been having sex? And I said, what? Like that. I'm just saying, I'm just asking you, have you been having sex? And I assumed, because he looked at my two first baby, and you know, they were like right at like 11 months apart. So I just assumed that's what he was saying. I was like, well, my husband is deployed and he has never seen the baby before, so no, I'm not having sex like that. And he was like, okay, he said, I can't remember what he said after that because I was so fucking pissed. And he was like, well, do you know what kind of birth control? He just didn't show me any compassion. And I said, yeah, I was thinking about getting the IUD. And he said, you know what? That's a good idea. He was like, because it's best to get it while you're on your cycle. And I was like, what? Like that? And he was like, yes. He said, so we can get you done today. And I remember feeling so uncomfortable. I was like, you are actually going to do that on my cycle? He was like, yeah, I do it all the time. And he was just so, you know, and it was like, he really didn't give me a choice. He was like, so you're going to get undressed again. Cause I remember they hadn't, matter of fact, I wasn't even undressed yet. And he was like, you're going to get undressed again. And I'm coming in and do the IU, give it to you. And I remember him, coming in, and I remember I wanted to cry. My kids was in the room with me. I just remember one crying, I was by myself. And he came in with a nurse. And the nurse was an older lady. And he asked her for something. She said, no. And I remember her, right when they was finna get ready to start, because my legs on the stomach, and he asked her something. And she said, no. And he was looking at her. And she was a black lady. And he was looking at her like, can you get it? Like the way he was looking at her, like she was an idiot too. So I think he had a problem with our skin tone. I'm not sure. He was very ill. Like he was very not a good person. Okay. So she went to get whatever she was supposed to get, and as he leaves the room, he's standing there with my legs open, like this. And I just remember sitting there, and I remember my son and daughter was sitting on the floor, crying. I mean, not crying, playing, and my baby was kind of whining. So while my legs was open, I reached down to the car seat and I started rocking the car seat, and the doctor the whole time was standing like this. Like it just looked like he didn't want to be there. And I remember just laying back, and the tears was just going down my face. I could not stop crying. And so the next day, I remember waking up, and I was to get breakfast. And I remember that night, I after I got the IUD, it was heavier. My cycle was heavier. And I was like, this is weird. And so I remember getting up, and when I looked down, the bed was soiled, and it was soiled. And I was like freaking out. I was like, so I called the clinic. I called Tripler. That was the name of the hospital. I called them. I said, hey, this is what's going on. And I remember them. They was like, we'll call you back. And they called me back. And she said, I talked to your doctor. He said he's remembering you. He said it's normal. He said, but in your cycle is heavy. It's going to be heavy like that. So long story short, you guys, I bled. I bled for, I had my son in October. I bled all the way up until December 19th. And it was so bad. So one time, I have never worked while being pregnant. So I mean, my husband, he went into me working while, so I didn't work. So I remember I stopped going places because one time, I remember my son had a birthday party. And she was like, you gonna bring the kids to the party? Well, she wasn't my friend, but she was somebody that I met at the party, and her kids like my kids. So, and she invited me to a birthday party. And I remember I was bleeding so much to where I would change. I was using tampons and pads, and I was using like the biggest one, like they look like diapers. That's how big they were. And I remember I used to walk like a penguin because I was paranoid because I could get up, go downstairs, and my clothes would be soiled. And I used to have fainting spells. I used to faint. I used to be tired all the time. And I used to throw up. I used to vomit all the time. All of this is going on. And I was by myself with the babies. And I remember I just used to cry. And my husband would call. And he'd be like, hey, babe, how you doing? I'm like, hey. And, and I used to pretend like everything was okay. Also, I was depressed because my mother-in-law had told me she was coming. And she kind of flaked on me and she didn't come. And I remember one time, the very last time, I kind of like had a nervous breakdown and like locked myself in the house for like 4 weeks and did not come out. At the birthday party, back to the birthday party, I did not move. I was sitting down. I did not move because I noticed the more I walk, sometimes I can feel it, coming out. Now, all the time I'm bleeding, I would call a doctor. Every time I would call them, they would say, we're normal. It was normal. And they would say, well, they'll give me some pills to stop it. And sometimes it would stop it for like a day and it would come back. My period would come back. And by this time, I'm fatigued. The iron pills is not working. I'm throwing up. And I remember getting up at the end of the party. No, I was dizzy. And she said, girl, go in there and sit down. So I went in there and sat down, and I kind of dozed off. And when I had dozed off, when I woke up, I kind of had soiled my pants. Now her house was leather and black, and I remember I had on like a dark sundress. So when I got up off of her sofa, because everybody was gone, she was in the den with her kids and my kids was in there, and she just let me sleep. She knew I was tired, and I was sleep holding my baby. When I got up, her couch was soiled. So I just started crying, and I started looking around, and I panicked. I was fucking panicking. So I took my dress and I wiped her couch. Thank God it was dark and it was lit. I was wiping her couch with with my dress. And the whole time I'm wiping her couch trying to put my baby in the car seat because I'm scared that I'm embarrassed, and I'm scared that she is gonna come in and see that I had messed up her couch. So just so happened, I'm getting my baby. I got my baby. I got my bag. I got everything. I'm getting my baby. I'm picking my baby to go up. You had to walk past the den to get to the front door. And I was in the living room. We had dens and living room. And when I get there, I look up, and as I'm going, my dress is soiled, and I have on a dress, and I had shorts on under the dress, but it didn't matter. It is running. It is running out. It is running down my leg, and I'm trying to hide it and get out the door before it makes it to the floor. The menstrual makes it to the floor. And she looked up, she said, hey girl, you slept good? I knew you was tired. Like that. I said, girl, yeah. I said, come on, y'all, go. And we had cell phone, and I was like, come on, y'all, we gotta go home because your daddy gonna be calling. And he back then, for some reason, when he called the cell phone, I couldn't hardly hear him. So when I know he would, around the time he would call, because he tried to call around the same time when he do call. I try to be home around the time that I know he may call. And so they just jump up and come on. And I remember getting out the door. By the time I made it to the door, it just fell out. It just fell out. Like, and I can feel like the clots, like, running down my leg. As this is happening, I am crying, but my back is to her, so she does not know that I am crying. And I said, yeah, girl, I'll talk to you later. And I'm trying to get to the truck. And my daughter said, mommy, something is on your leg, like that. And I said, Kaylin, I know, just get in the car. I get in the car. By the time I get in the car, it is full blown. It's like I'm tinkling on myself. So I get to home to try to clean myself up. Y'all, I'm so weak. I'm so tired, and I'm so weak, and I'm so tired. And I remember my cell phone ringing, and I didn't pick it up. I just lay in the bed because by this time I'm tired. I got, menstrual all over me, all over my dress, all over my bed, all over my car. It's on the floor, and I'm just laying in the bed. And I remember just laying there like, and my son, he is screaming. He is screaming to the top of his lungs, and I just did not care. And my phone is still going. At this time, it's repeatedly ringing. So I am thinking that it is my husband calling, but I'm so weak, I don't have the strength to pick up the phone. And then I remember somebody beating on my door. I'm about to cry. Beating on my door. And I didn't care. I didn't care that nobody was beating on my door. I didn't care. It was my friend. She saw the blood. She saw it. She saw my menstrual on her front door, and I was so embarrassed I didn't open the door. And she was like, Shay, open the door. She just kept saying, open the door. And I said, no, she was telling my daughter to open the door, and I hear her, but she was saying, Shay, open the door. And she was like, my daughter saying, hey, my mommy is sick, she can't get up, like that. And she was like, and her name was Frances. She passed away. She had lupus and she passed away, but she was such a good friend to me that day. And she was like, open the door. She said, open the door, baby, open the door. And I remember her coming up the stairs, and I remember laying on the bed, and she said, Shay, are you okay? And I said, no. I said, I can't get the blood to stop. I said, I just wish it would stop. And my son, he's still screaming. She picked up my son. She picks him up, and he just stopped. And I remember crying because all he wanted to do was get picked up, but I could not move. I could not do anything. And I remember going into my bathroom, and she ran water. And I remember she cleaned me up. And as she cleaning me up, the IUD like fell. Like, I guess when we took my pants off, the IUD, it fell out. Like, it came out. And she was like, bitch, you had an IUD. Like, it was so funny. She just looked, she said, and she was so funny. She said, bitch, you went and got a fucking IUD. And I said, yeah. She said, why? I said, because I'm sick of being pregnant like that. And she said, I could have told you not to get this shit like that. Because it fell out. And she said, that's why you bleed. And I said, I need to go to the doctor. She said, no. She said, it didn't fell out. You'll be back to normal next week like that. And I said, for real? And she said, yeah, y'all, she cleaned me up. And the whole time, while we talking like that, I'm still crying. I'm still crying. And she cleaned me up. She changed the sheets on my bed. She put my kids to bed. She put my baby to bed. She got in the bed with me. And she went to sleep. And she let me cry myself to sleep. And I just want to let y'all know that was one of many traumatic moments. Like I said, at the time, I did not know it was a postpartum episode. I didn't realize till like a couple of years ago that I had postpartum. And to be honest, I think this is the first time that I have ever told that story. Frances, may she rest in peace, but she will forever, ever, ever have a place in my heart, because I don't even think my husband know about this story. And I just want to give my story of my postpartum story. I have many more, but that was one that was for the books. I have some, I think the postpartum stories are traumatic. So I got some label stories as a black woman that'll blow your damn mind. But that's my story. Hopefully it helps somebody. Hopefully it'll motivate another black woman to give her story. And that's it. This is me. You guys be blessed. You guys have a happy Sunday. And if ain't nobody told you that they love you, I love you. Happy reading.